Okay, welcome along everybody. Welcome along to this session on accessible technology for libraries with RNIB. My name is Sean McNamara. I am Director of CILIP Scotland. We're also joined today by my two colleagues, Kirsten McQuarrie and Leah Higgins. Kirsten was one of the driving forces in getting this session going, so thanks to Kirsten for the work there. We're really pleased to see such a high attendance at this event today. I think we had a couple of hundred or more bookings, so it really shows the desire, and it's been really great to also work in partnership with all the nations of CILIP on this. So both CILIP Wales, CILIP Ireland, and CILIP across the UK have been involved in the setup for this. Just say the captions are on. You should be able to turn them off or on. Please do use the chat function if you have anything you want to raise or just to say hello just now as the session's beginning, and let us know where you're calling in from. If you do have questions that pop up during the session, do put them in the chat. We will have a little bit of time at the end, and we will come to those questions. So do put them in at any point, and we'll keep a note of them as we go. Keep your mics off if you can. We may come to you to ask you to turn your mic on if you have a question, but keep them off to avoid background noise. Your cameras can be left on or off, whatever you're comfortable with. Sometimes leaving them off can help with bandwidth, but do leave them on. It's nice for, if you can, it's nice for the speakers to see faces as they're speaking. Just to do a little bit, we're just going to do a very brief introduction from the CILIP nations who have helped put this session together. So first of all, just to say hello from CILIP Scotland. We were really pleased to have Lara, one of our speakers today, at the CILIPS conference earlier this year. And really, this work is grounded in the CILIPS EDI commitment that we renew every couple of years, and we're in the process of renewing at the moment. And we'll put that in the chat a minute. And that EDI commitment also has led to our resource bank of accessibility resources. So do have a look at those if you can, and you may find some additional useful help there. And we'll be certainly adding to them, I'm sure, after today's session as well. CILIP Scotland provides events and training and advocacy all throughout the year. Do have a look at our website. We do have a lot of online events which people from all across the UK that are CILIP members can attend, so do have a look at that as well. I now pass over to Elaine, who is my colleague from CILIP Ireland, who's going to just say a little bit about CILIP Ireland as well before we get started.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Elaine. I'm the CILIP Ireland Community Development Manager. Very pleased to see some familiar names popping up in the chat there from across the island of Ireland. So I am your go-to person if you want to know more about our training, our events, or what's happening for CILIP Ireland. I'm going to pop my email address into the chat if anybody would like to contact me. And you can also keep up to date with all of our activities on the CILIP Ireland web pages and on our socials. So thank you all very much for coming this morning. And I'll hand over to Sinead, our colleague for CILIP Wales.
Thank you, Elaine. Barada. Good morning, everybody. It's amazing to see so many people on the training. I'm Sinead. I'm the Community Development Manager for Wales. So a bit like Elaine, for Ireland, I'm responsible for events and sort of various things to do with CILIP within Wales. And obviously, if you've got any ideas or want to get involved with CILIP, please contact me, and I'm going to put my email address in the chat, so that if you do want to contact me, please do. And I'm going to pass you back now to Sean.
Thanks, Sinead. Yeah, that's great. So we'll now kick off with the session on accessible technology in libraries. We're really delighted to be joined by the Libraries Engagement Manager for the RNIB, Lara Marshall, as well as Lara's colleagues, Chris Turner and Madleen Bloom. So Lara, I will now pass over to you. Please take it from here. Thanks for joining us.
Great, thank you, Sean, and all of the CILIP nations. I'm really excited to be here, especially all joined up. That's absolutely fabulous, and thank you everyone for coming along. I guess the only thing that I should say beforehand is if it is outside of the UK, there may be different resources for you or a different pathway, but of course, all the principles are still exactly the same. So hopefully you'll still find it useful. And if you want any further information about how to pursue that, just get in touch with us afterwards. We'll put you in touch with the right people. Great. So accessible technology. It's really great that there's still like, there is a, we were talking about it before, there's a real hunger for it. People want to know about it. And as Sean said, I'm the library's engagement manager. So my main concern is really how to support you in your library settings to really get some quick wins in there to make sure that your spaces are more accessible. So I'm just going to dive straight into the presentation, and then my colleagues will there on the Technology for Life team, so I'll do a little bit more in depth on the techie stuff. If you want to raise your hand at any point, please do. This will be super informal, so don't worry at all. So yeah, first off, is it all right? Can everyone see the slides? Fabulous. Oh, I got some thumbs up. Yay, thank you. Perfect. So just general housekeeping, pretty much what Sean said. Any questions, just raise your hand. Save bandwidth, keep your cameras and your microphones off. Because there are enough tech issues, you know, so we're going to try and keep this as smooth as possible. Participate as much as you can. It's so much nicer to hear other people's voices apart from us just droning on. And you will get a copy of the presentation afterwards, so don't worry too much about making notes. Our agenda, I will introduce myself, pass over to my colleagues, then I will talk about making sure your public computers, or that the computers that you and your staff are using, are accessible, you can access those features. My colleague Chris will talk about equipment, hardware, and then Madleen will talk about training, tech hubs and software, and then we'll open it up for Q&A, and we try to leave lots of time for that Q&A, so get your questions ready now and we'll try our very best to answer them. Great, so you know who I am. I just want to pass over to my colleague Chris so he can say hi to everybody. Chris, over to you. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, hi guys, sorry about that. Yeah, hi, I'm Chris, Technology for Life coordinator based in the Southwest.
Amazing. And Madleen? Madleen is with us. Ironically enough, she's been having some tech issues, so I don't know if she can hear us, but hopefully by the time she comes on, that'll all be fixed, so you'll see her a little bit later. So I'll dive straight into talking about your public computers or your customer computers, or potentially even your staff computers if you have a member of your team with sight loss, and just making sure that these are accessible. So the number one thing really, when we're discussing and say looking at that in your space, is the location. You know, is it easy to get to? Are they in an accessible space? And by accessible space, you know, it's just really that you if someone was blind or partially sighted, they would be able to get there, ideally by themselves. How far away is it from a customer service desk? If it's in a public setting or maybe an academic setting, you know, would you be able to confidently say, okay, yeah, 12 o'clock, straight ahead, and there's a public computer for you. You know, what's the signage like for someone with low vision? Would they be easily able to tell that, you know, this was an area with computers that they could access? Are they a really nice color contrast? With some people, they number their computers. You know, are the numbers nice and big, nice high color contrast? They know they're going to number 2, number 1, or a particular computer. And then just little things about the furniture. You know, do the chairs have wheels? We're like, these are just like the bane of our life at RNIB, like the wheelie chairs. Yeah, unfortunately things do happen, so ideally chairs without wheels, but if they do, it's not the end of the world. You know, you've got to really think about what works for you and what works for your space. So I think location is the first thing really to look at in your own libraries, and just try and imagine, if you're a blind or a partially sighted user, how useful and how practical that space is. And then we go on to like the actual desktop PC itself, and I'm very much talking about just desktop PCs. My colleagues later are going to talk about smartphones and other pieces of equipment. This is just your standard desktop. Now, you'll probably all have those big sort of black and yellow keyboards that you can pull out if you need to, that have the large print on them. I would say always have at least one of those. You don't have to buy a specialist keyboard. You can actually get stickers that you can stick on. They do tend to come off though, those stickers. So it just depends on what works best for you. But having one of those available is great. Wouldn't recommend really bothering, you know, unless it's for, you know, if you're looking at pan disability and having like a big rollable mouse. But as far as for people with sight loss, I wouldn't worry anything, you know, wouldn't worry too much about the mouse. Through your accessibility settings on the computer, you can make the mouse cursor a lot bigger, and you can also change the color of the cursor. And then of course, people with no vision won't be using the mouse at all. They'll be using keyboard shortcuts. So yeah, as far as we're concerned, you know, the keyboard, as long as you've got one of those, that probably covers you in that area. And are there headphones? Can people use the headphones if they have no vision at all, or very low vision and want to use the screen reader? If they haven't brought their headphones along, is there a pair of headphones that they can use? I know sometimes this opens a big can of worms. You don't want to have headphones available. But even if, you know, you were able to have one set aside in case of emergency, or to really advertise, please bring your own headphones. And then, you know, are they able to connect Bluetooth headphones, things like that? I know a lot of people that I work with at the RNIB prefer to use their Bluetooth headphones, so the headphones that they plug in the jack. So would they be able to connect those? Because if they turn the screen reader on, you kind of don't want the whole library listening to it, reading out their emails, or reading what they're saying on the screen. And then if you go down the route of actually going, no, we just want you to use the headphones with the headphone jack. How easy is it to find that jack? You know, I've worked with some libraries where we've said, all right, well, let's put like a little bump on sticker, like literally just a tiny little raised dot sticker by the headphone jack. So when you're just feeling around the back of the PC, it's really nice and easy to feel where that headphone jack goes in. And it's like, oh, okay, lovely. I know there are a bunch of holes here, but that's the one for headphones. Yeah, and that tends to cause the most aggro in that situation. And then can the screen reader, if that's activated, are the speakers on if they don't have headphones? You know, headphones is a big topic. So yeah, these just all things for you to think about that you may not have thought about with your computers, you know. And also another thing, you know, with a lot of libraries, there will be a login box before you actually get in to start using the computer, get in to activate Google Chrome, or, you know, whatever you want to use, Microsoft Edge. So can the screen reader be turned on at that login stage? You know, when they need to type in their library card number or their user number or something like that. You know, most computers actually, if you just use the keys to turn on Windows Narrator, which is your general bog standard screen reader in a Windows computer, it will come on at the login stage, which is encouraging. But I would encourage you just to give it a go and just to try. And I'll give you those keyboard shortcuts later on the presentation. So, you know, a lot of it is just having a conversation. You know, also, if you have any blind and partially sighted students, users, members of staff, customers that are coming in, I would just recommend just have a chat, be like, how easy is this for you to log into? Because so much of it is about, you know, that co-production and working together. And then the accessibility settings on your desktop itself, anything sort of Windows 10 or above, absolutely fine. Wouldn't recommend, you go out and buy any specialist software unless, of course, you want to, or that meets the needs of your users. But generally, I'm hoping you've all got Windows 10 or above. If you don't, let me know. We might have to go down a different path. But yeah, you're able to do things like illustrated on this slide, change the cursor size, change the theme. But in some libraries, these settings are locked down, depending on what computer you're using in the library. So the person can log in, get in the computer to do their work or their study or their essay or check their emails or whatever they're doing, but they'll try and get to the accessibility settings and they can't. And that's an issue. So, and that probably is an issue with, the general sort of like IT providers, in which case, we're happy to have a chat with them and just go, it doesn't need to be everything. It just needs to be these certain accessibility settings that need to be open for someone to use the computer. I'll tell you what, as soon as you start getting those working, you think, oh God, wow, that looks a lot easier. That's great. I love to have my mouse cursor really big in bright pink. It just makes my day kind of easier to find where you're always losing the mouse, and just to make things work easier for you and, of course, those people with sight loss as well. So as I say, the inbuilt accessibility settings are normally fine. And then you've got your Windows magnifier, you've got Windows narrator, and we've got the keyboard shortcut there. So to activate that Windows magnifier, it's just the Windows logo key and the plus or minus to make it bigger. And then the magnifier automatically comes up and you can select to make it 80%, 100%, 90%, or just use plus and minus keys. And then Windows narrator, use the Windows logo key, control and enter. Windows narrator will just pop up and it will start talking to you. And then if you want to turn it off, because a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's reading everything on the screen, this is too much, just the same keys again, and that will turn it off. And then to activate those accessibility settings, if you go into settings and then ease of access, because on everyone's smartphone, you go into settings and accessibility. On Windows, it's settings and ease of access, and you will see all those options. We do have some accessibility guides for Windows 10 and Windows 11. I'm saying Windows all the time because that tends to generally be the computers people have. Of course, if you have a Google, I don't know what it's called, a Google box, Chris would probably know. If you've got the Google version or if you've got like Apple, do let us know because we do have guides for that, but just talking Windows because that's all generally what's available. And then I've got just a little example of Windows 10 operating system. And when you get into those ease of access settings, you've got things like you can change the size, make everything bigger, make everything brighter. You've got audio options, closed caption options, color filters, text cursor, speech. You've got so many options in there. Sometimes it's just worth having a little play around. They are pretty straightforward once you get in there and just start clicking, and they're really easy to reverse as well. So it's really just making you aware that they're there. They're fine. They're free, most importantly of all, and it should hopefully make people with sight loss, their experience using your computers a whole lot nicer and a whole lot smoother. So yeah, that is me. I will now pass over to Chris, who will talk to you about hardware and equipment. Over to you, Chris.
Yep, thanks, Lara. Yeah, so this section I'm going to talk about some standalone devices dealing with, to aid with reading print and also audio. Probably the thing to say up front is the common theme with the devices. I'm just going to give an overview. Obviously, there's too many to go into lots of detail, but the main thing is to bear in mind they're very good at what they do. The downside is kind of the obvious one. It's the cost of these devices. So they tend to do one or two things, do them very well, but you are paying quite a lot for that. But yeah, bear with me a second, just find my notes. Yeah, so looking at print, first of all, electronic magnifiers, obviously these are much flexible than your standard old-fashioned Sherlock Holmes type magnifier, and they come in a variety of form factors, sizes, and different capabilities. Typically, you'll find they use, a lot of them are like a tablet, so some will have physical controls, but others will actually have on-screen controls. But just to mention a couple, the Clover range, they've got quite interesting names. Magnifiers. There's it comes in different shapes and sizes. I think there's a 5-inch one. There's a 6-inch one. These typically have a very high range of magnification. I think the Clover in particular can go up to 35 times, which really is going to be impractical. And I'll sort of come on to that as when I finish this section. But they're typically lightweight, very simple controls. You don't want to be sort of diving through menus and things. So the ones that have tactile controls, they'll only have like 3 or 4 buttons. You can also often connect some of these to larger screens using an HDMI cable. So if someone's reading at home and just connected to their kind of smart TV. Some will have an integrated stand. So pragmatically, you're probably not going to want to be reading a book with a handheld electronic magnifier, but typically people would use them for reading mail, leaflets, or even looking at products in the supermarket, just browsing shelves, that kind of thing. Where you would perhaps use something for more concentrated reading, more a longer reading session, is some of the desktop magnification solutions. And it's I must just say it from for what it's worth, I'm registered blind, so I have used some of these in the very ancient past, but I can't really speak. I know the technology has improved, but typically what you will find, certainly when I started using them, the desktop bound electronic magnifiers, you'd have a sort of table that can move in two directions, XY table. So you'd put your book or whatever it is on there and move it around underneath the camera lens. When I first used one, it was literally a video camera, a CCTV camera connected to a monitor. They're a lot neater and smaller now. The Hark Reader, for example, made by a company called Humanware, that is a very neat one. It's actually portable as well. I say portable, it's quite sizable for a portable device, but it has got a battery, and so you could put it in a rucksack and take that to where you need it. These things can be quite popular for students and that sort of thing, where they have to go to different classes. Yeah, one of the others is I think is probably on the slide, is the Optelec Clearview C. So again, this is a desktop electronic magnifier, and it's designed again to be a bit more ergonomic. It's a C-shaped device. It has the table, the XY table, but it also has it's not too bulky. It's designed that you can fit a kind of newspaper under it. What you will find with some of these as well, and again, these tend to be the more expensive ones. Some will have detachable cameras, again, perhaps useful in a classroom environment, so you can see the whiteboard, or just TV and that sort of thing. Some will also have text to speech, so they'll magnify and also read out the document. There's a series of devices called Ruby. One of the versions they do, I think, is a 10-inch tablet form factor one that also has speech. And these days they tend to have very good, very human sounding voices. So it's not for someone that might not be using a screen reader, as Lara mentioned, something like Narrator. If they only need speech now and again, they might not be used to the more robotic voices, but these typically have good voices. Some again, a slightly different category of this device is some wearables. So you've got your handheld magnifiers, you've got your desktop ones. sometimes there's some that are even smaller than that, or perhaps built into glasses. There's a company called Orcam who make different products that kind of fit this category. I should say up front, Orcam have just pulled out of making devices for visually impaired people, although they are still on sale. I wouldn't necessarily suggest anyone gets them. Whilst they'll work fine and they'll do what they're designed to do as of today, they won't be getting any updates, and it's a bit murky to see how they'll be supported in the future, which is a great shame, because it's not long that they've brought out their Orcam Read, it's just called, which has a smart, an AI type feature built in, so you can get it to read either a whole page of text or point it at something and say, read me the headlines. So take voice commands to actually access different elements of a document. They do other ones as well. There is one called the My Eye, which will clip onto glasses. So for someone that's wearing glasses, that can be useful. And again, these have very simple controls, tactile, sort of very definite shaped buttons, but it's certainly just the cost we're talking. I'm not sure the read size. It's a couple of grand, give or take.
More than that, really.
Yeah, and it's a real shame the AI one's only recently come out, so I was a bit surprised to hear Orcam are pulling out that market. There are also things, I'll just mention them as well quickly, because one of the things certainly myself and colleagues are excited about are Meta frames, which are smart sunglasses. They haven't been designed for visually impaired people, this particular model. There are some that have been, but this is just a general device made by Meta, the Facebook people. So, you kind of you might draw your own conclusions on how much you want Meta to get involved. But the brilliant thing is that these cost us circa 330 quid. They have a camera built in, they have speakers built in, and they have an AI service, so you can take a picture and ask it about, the image. It's hoped that will get smarter and will open up to some of the things myself and other visually impaired people will use. We'll talk about that later, but some of the things we use on smartphones. But at the moment, these are, because they're so accessible price-wise, just to give a very quick comparison, some wearable glasses that came out a few years ago based on the Google Glass platform, which actually is kind of obsolete now, but a product called Envision that had very similar functionality. It would read text and it will identify scenes and that sort of thing. That I think is nearly £3,000. So we're talking something that's almost 1/10 of the price, and it's mainstream hardware. So that, yes, definitely an exciting thing to look at for the future. Yeah, because certainly when it comes to reading text, identifying images, the thing we all want, I think, is hands-free. The desktop table thing works for a lot of scenarios, but if you're out and about, want to look at signs or just notices on walls or browse a bookshelf, you want hands-free. So I guess moving on from dealing with print, accessing print with these devices, the second kind of category really is, or main category, are talking books, audio books, audio machines, talking book machines. Again, there are a variety of these. They break down into two main areas, which are DAISY and what I would call regular audio players. You may all know what DAISY is, but if not, DAISY, I believe it stands for Digital Accessible Information System, and then an I on the end, just because why not? What DAISY is, it's an audio book format, but it uses markup language very similar to HTML for website coding, and it tells the player where certain sections of the book are. So it basically allows the end user to move around the book in more logical sections, by chapter, line, paragraph, even sentence, as opposed to if you have an audiobook on a CD, for example, one track might be an hour long, and that's well, probably not an hour long actually. It's limitation of CDs, but it might be, one track or file might span more than one chapter. So if you need to rewind and go back to the beginning, it's not necessarily going to put you at the beginning of a chapter. So there are a few DAISY players. These do tend to cost a lot more than the basic audio ones. I'll come on to those, but in terms of DAISY audio player, I think there's only one model now that actually plays DAISY CD, and that is the Victor Reader Stratus. It does come in a couple of versions, but yeah, that's the only one I know of now.
No, there's another one, the Plex Talk.
Is that still around?
Yeah.
Because okay, yeah, I thought that was obsolete. Yeah,
sorry.
I used to have the Plex Talk a long time ago.
Mm.
Yeah, and again, the advantage, well, certainly with the Plex Talk I had, it had very good tactile ergonomic controls. I mean, when I first started listening to audiobooks, they were actually on 6-track cassette, and they were very clunky. And if you wanted to rewind or go to a previous track, each track was 2 hours long. So if you fell asleep and you missed your place, it was a lot of rewinding. With the CDs, obviously, you can skip tracks, and they had bookmark features. Something like the Stratus, we have a lot of customers that use them, and I personally think they're a bit complicated. They're a bit over-engineered, to the point where they have a lid on them to hide most of the buttons to make it simpler, because it provides a lot more bookmarking functionality and sort of moving around in different sections, which is good to have, but I do find a lot of our customers don't tend to use those, and they can find the extra controls a bit confusing. But again, they can access these books from our library on CD, DAISY format CD. There is also DAISY format on USB stick, so it's a bit more compact, and one of the Stratus players will also play those, or even an SD card. There are a few separate DAISY players that will play from a USB stick. I've not personally seen these, but they're the Plex Talk that Madleen mentioned that does CDs. They also do a pocket-sized version that will play from a USB stick and various media. There's one called an Evo as well. But the thing with DAISY, it does tend to be expensive. That's the main issue. You get a couple of more devices that I think are more interesting, loosely under that category of DAISY players, because they also have internet connectivity. The two main ones are the Victor Reader Stream, and this will give you access to podcasts, radio streams. You can load ebooks onto there through a USB, I think it's USB or SD card. Transferring stuff to it, and it will read those using text to speech. It's a nice device, very good ergonomic controls. Once again, physical buttons, obviously marked out for your transport controls, play, rewind, are very nicely laid out. A similar system is called the Sense Player. This one, if I was going to get one, this is probably the one I would get. It's because it's based on Android, so again, it's a standalone system. It will read audiobooks, give you access to things online, but because it's got the Android system, you can actually add a few apps. So I think they're kind of tailoring it as almost a pocket media center, because I think you can add Netflix. It doesn't have a screen, but yeah, you can have. As far as I know, it doesn't have a screen, but yeah, it's you can add Netflix and sort of streaming apps like that. They also do a version that has OCR. I should have mentioned what OCR was at the beginning. I'm guessing a lot of you will know, but OCR, optical character recognition. So that's the process where you take a picture of text and it will either convert it into something you can edit, in Word, or it will combine that with text to speech and just read out the text. So yeah, this HIMS player, the Sense Player, made by a company called HIMS, they do a version that has a camera and can do text to speech from OCR. So that's probably the main sort of spread of DAISY players. There are one or two I've not mentioned, just Yeah, because there aren't a massive range of them in general, though. However, the second sort of category is your kind of basic audio players, audio book machines. And these are a lot cheaper. So, I mean, for example, I mentioned the Victor Reader Stratus, the CD one. That's I should have got the price, but it's around £300, I think, ish, give or take. Versus something like the Accord player, which I believe is about 40, 50 quid. I should have looked the price up. I think that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, is that on the slide now, Lara?
Yes, it's up on the slide.
Yeah, so it looks like a tin of beans, that kind of thing. Again, it's got very tactile controls, and it will play from USB sticks, so from our talking book library that can be sent out in the post. Although there is a self-service option as well. You can register online and download them if you've got access to a computer and just copy them over yourself. I think they're very popular, these players. The sound's good on them. The only problem is because it's not DAISY. If you want to rewind to at the beginning of a chapter, you can't really. It just navigates the file, so you're either moving between the files or holding the button down and scanning backwards and forwards through the audio. And that's typical of these sort of players. You don't have that kind of fine control, but then it's, as I say, it's a lot cheaper. And I use one here. I don't know if you can see this, but it's not much to look at. It's a black cube. This was 20 quid. It can work as it's called a Speech Masters, made by a company called Cobalt, and it will play off USB stick, SD card, and it has an FM radio built in, so it's actually got an aerial, and it will also act as a Bluetooth speaker. That said, to be honest, I don't really use this for listening to audiobooks, because one thing to be aware of, I think it's the same on the Accord, they combine the volume up and down button with the skip forward and skip back. And I find I tend to use this to listen to audio described films which I've downloaded. I can't tell you too much about that because it's a bit murky on the copyright, but I tend to listen to those on here because I don't need to see the screen. But if you need to rewind a few seconds, if you don't press and hold the button properly, it will skip back to the beginning. Or if you want to adjust the volume and you press it wrong, it will skip back to the beginning. And obviously, if you're an hour into a film, that's quite annoying. But I guess you pay your money, 20 quid. What do you expect, kind of thing. But yeah, so those are sort of standalone USB machines. There are probably a couple more, but the Accord, I think, is a better machine than this one. But yeah, the only disadvantage, as I say, is the adjusting the volume and being able to move logically through books. Bear with me a second. Yeah, so kind of just to recap, because at the beginning I was talking about electronic magnifiers, and they can go up to 35 times. Just as a general thing, when we work with our customers, if someone's needing to magnify something to that level, we would probably start trying to gently persuade them that they might want to look at text to speech and using a screen reader, because at that point it's just going to be so impractical. If you're only getting a couple of letters on the screen, or certainly on a larger screen, they're going to be craning their neck around trying to read and scan, and it's going to cause other problems like neck strain and eye strain. So yeah, most people probably won't use them to that level of magnification. But yeah, has anyone got any questions on any of that?
I don't see any hands up now, so I think obviously explained everything so well, Chris.
Shall I just? Sorry, Lara. Shall I? And I don't know, Madleen, if you had this, but I thought it might. Is it worth mentioning reading services?
Go for it.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So I mentioned our self-service talking book system. It's called Reading Services. The web address to go there directly is all one word: readingservices.rnib.org.uk. You can register there, and anyone with a visual impairment or print disability, they don't have to be certified with an eye condition, but they can sign up there and download audiobooks in DAISY format. But there's also Braille, and Madeline's going to talk a bit about Braille, but they can download these formats There's ebook as well, EPUB rather format, which I'm personally a fan of. So they can download themselves and just transfer them to whichever device they've got that's compatible. And I use it a lot. It's a great service.
Amazing. Thank you, Chris. Did you want to mention anything about the technology suppliers?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So yeah. I did have that note.
We don't know
Yeah.
where the
So
break
there's
is, isn't it? Where's you? Where's me? Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll refer customers. Obviously, we're vendor neutral. I think the main ones to mention, Vision Aid are very good. They cover, certainly for magnifiers. I refer people there in the first instance because they have such a vast range of equipment, and all these vendors, none of them are fixated on selling stuff. They want to find the right product for the person. If they've got reps in the geographical area, they can often demo stuff. So there's Vision Aid, which is visionaid.co.uk. There's also Sight and Sound. They sell a mixture of stuff. They sell some of the specialist tech that Madeline's going to talk about, some of the software, but also a few hardware devices, braille devices, and so on. Again, that's sightandsound.co.uk. There's Optilec. Again, they make reading machines, electronic magnifiers. I think that's optilec.co.uk. I haven't got that one in front of me, actually.
Yep.
And another one that's quite interesting, and I couldn't remember the name of the device, so I had to try this. It wasn't much good for me because it probably needs some vision, but there's a company called Seeing Solutions. They're also known as Pamtrad. But yeah, seeing-solutions.co.uk. They make a number of devices. They do have a shop actually in Nottingham, so a physical high street store. I think they're the only assistive tech company, certainly for visual impairment, that do have a physical space. But they do make quite a few things. They make some wearable goggles that can do OCR and scene detection, which I thought were quite interesting. But again, you need some useful vision to get the best of those. But yeah, I think they're probably the four main suppliers.
Right, shall I continue? My name is Madleen. I'm so sorry to join late. It wasn't intentional. I had some technical hitch there. I could not hear you.
We're happy you're with us, Madleen. Yay.
Yeah, thank you. So where we covered magnification, Chris mentioned that if magnification isn't an option anymore and you speak to somebody that experiences interest in reading or using a computer or phone or tablet, I'm going to explain screen readers a bit. So we have got a couple of screen readers for the desktops. Stay with the desktop and computers, desktop and laptops for the moment. There's a free screen reader. Lara mentioned it's in the Windows computers inbuilt already. That's Narrator. Now, Narrator, for me as a screen reader user, is good enough to install something or to get something read. I personally wouldn't really use Narrator for everything to do with screen reading. It's a little bit clunky, although it has gotten much better. If you support somebody that just needs a bit of screen reading done and doesn't want to spend any money, Narrator will do. There's another one called NVDA. It's a free resource as well, and it is very good actually. It's a couple of Australian guys that have come together a few years ago and now and develop this resource, and it's amazing what you can do without spending any money on it. You can make a donation if you wish. JAWS for Windows is probably one of the most popular screen readers, and a lot of times people call us up and say, I can't see anything anymore. JAWS for Windows has been recommended, I get, and they don't have to get it. JAWS for Windows is very common in work, at work computer stations. The problem is if you start using it at work, you also want to use it at home, probably. But yeah, it's very expensive. You're talking about £900 or something for a fully fledged JAWS license. And then you know the drill. You need to update this yearly. So it's something they have to think about if this is what they want to use. And there is a bit of a learning curve to start using JAWS or any screen reader, because where Lara was mentioning at the beginning, you can't use a mouse if you're blind or partially sighted. You use keyboard shortcuts. You don't have to remember all of them, but the more you remember, the better off you are. But they become to training and self-help later. So magnification software or magnifying software we've used previously. We've got Dolphin Supernova and Zoom Text. They're the two sort of famous or two obvious magnification software we can get. There isn't one better than the other. A lot of libraries we spoke to, they seem to have some Dolphin Supernova license. But yeah, I mean, both of them are really good. I always recommend, if you want to try it out, get a demo copy, download it from either and just try it out, because it's quite, yeah, amazing to see, how different the world is with a screen reader or magnification software. QRead is a software that you can get if you are into ebooks and such, because it's very innovative and powerful, and reads ebooks for blind or partially sighted people. So if you're a casual reader, or if you're a student or professional, that might be what you have to do, because there's a lot of reading.
Madleen, sorry, just to interrupt, because I'm a big fan of that, and you might think, oh, you can read PDFs in Adobe Reader, but it's very clunky, I find, Adobe.
It's clunky.
And QRead's brilliant. You can set bookmarks, you can copy and paste, certainly for studying. I was looking at code and things like that. So it's really great, because obviously you can copy and paste bits and jump around, and it does have its own text to speech, if you only need it for that.
Yeah, and now we come to Braille. There's a bit of a myth about that Braille is sort of some old-fashioned thing people used to do before we got to computers and smartphones and tablets and the like, and I very much disagree. Braille is what blind people use to have even an imagination of letters and how letters are shaped. It's very much so like you used to learn in at the age of 4 or 5, your letters and how to phrase, how to put words together and sentences. Same it is for us with Braille. And if you lose your sight later in life and you don't have any understanding about Braille, or it's very difficult. I always encourage learning Braille, even if you just want to learn the basics. You don't need to learn grade 2 Braille, which is like a shorthand, just because Braille takes a vast amount of space. So what it is, Braille is, it's, imagine a dice with 6 dots, and that's how those dots that we use to actually do the alphabet and all the number signs and every other sign that you can think of. And it's different variations, and it's basically a tactile writing system. And you can get Braille on a typewriter, Braille on a Braille display, and Braille on so many other places that you pass. It might be on your medication boxes, on lifts as you go along, on platforms if you enter train stations. Yeah, I mean, we talk about the Braille displays today, and they can be connected to a computer. They just allow us to have the text under our fingers without actually listening to speech all the time. Can be a bit difficult, and also for me, it's like if I'm writing numbers, for example, if I write the numbers in Braille, they're just somehow in my head. If I just listen to it, it wouldn't really sink in that much. So yeah.
Actually,
Um,
Dave was telling me recently he got some Braille chocolate. I was like, what?
oh wow.
And it told you like the flavors of the chocolate on. Oh, it was amazing. I mean, it's a
That's quite
shame you had to
nice.
eat it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of shops, I mean, Co-op is one that springs to mind, has a lot of items labeled shortbread and teas and stuff. The boxes are labeled,
Bleach,
so
toilet bleach is where you definitely
toilet
see it.
bleach. One of the shower gels seems to be labeled. So if you do get something like this, just have a little nosy and you know, you can feel Braille at least. It's quite nice.
I don't
So
know.
yeah.
You might be on the slide, but I've got an Orbit Reader 20. I don't know if you can
Oh,
probably.
yeah, that looks good. Thanks, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
this is
it's
the
20
Orbit
cells.
reader. This is a little Braille device. And Braille, everything to do with Braille is expensive. Braille books used to be very expensive. Braille note takers or Braille displays are very expensive. Can be about, well, it used to be about £3,000 to £6,000 for a Braille display, but now the one that Chris was holding up, the Orbit reader, is, what's the latest price for that one? 450, something like this, pounds. Unless you buy a bigger one, if you buy an Orbit reader, 40. The 40 behind this, how many cells of text do you get on the display? So the bigger you get, the more you pay, unfortunately.
Can I mention, just because it's local, Bristol Braille? I
Yeah,
live in
of course,
Bristol
please.
and I know these
Canute.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make a device called the Canute, which is an 80 cell device. So it's a tabletop thing. But interesting, at the moment, they're also working on the Canute console, which is linked to a computer, and the idea of looking at using Braille to display different types of information, graphs, maps, and that sort of thing. That's kind of a developmental project. It's available, but they're constantly looking of ways to innovate that. And yeah, I know the guys that are just down the road.
Yeah, that's actually quite amazing because if you think about especially children or also us really, it's really good to have like a whole picture of something underneath our fingertips. It's like when you watch an image, you don't just watch a part of the image, you watch the whole full image. Us lot, we can't really do that. We just have to feel bit by bit, and these sort of new innovations, they really help for us to get, can't say it any different, like the full picture of things as well. Now, as you can imagine, when we have to learn about Braille, we have to learn about screen readers, magnification, training is a very big topic. Training usually doesn't come for free. Technology for Life, where our team, we help customers a lot throughout, you know, telephone work, face-to-face training. We have volunteers that help as well. But you know, it's very important that people feel there's training out there. Um, Access to work, if people are in employment, they can provide screen reading or magnification or braille display, you know, any training that's required. It's usually very expensive, so that needs to be obtained and provided by Access to Work or any of them companies that they work with. A common place to get training are user groups on Facebook, by email, or any other social media platforms. YouTube training help, little guides is something that people like to go back. We have, I mean, there's websites for everything for screen readers. Freedom Scientific, they're the company for, I mean, I can't go through all of them now, but just to mention a few, Freedom Scientific have a brilliant help tool in their JAWS software. And obviously the same you can get for smartphones, tablets, Apple, Android. They have wonderful self-guides and training material online. But online is not for everybody, and it's really important to, and we know that some people, you know, can't access material online, and will probably also come into you and speak to people and say they need help. So we are aware of that. I'm just mentioning smartphones, apps, and Kindles because I've used them before, mentioned them before. Sorry. You get some images here, or some stuff to look at. I'm mentioning the Seeing AI and the Be My Eyes app. They are very helpful apps for blind and partially sighted people. And they're free. Both of them are free, and they can help with as simple things like, is my light switched on or off? I've got a classic every night. I've got 3 children, and light switches on every side of the room, and you never know. Even if you tell them turn them off or turn this on or whatever, oh, they wouldn't. They, so it's a good thing to check, is the light actually on or off when you go up at the end of the day. But they also help with far more in-depth stuff. Picture recognition. You can explain people's faces, face expressions, text recognition. If you need any professional help of Microsoft or any other company, you can contact them through Be My Eyes. It's a platform that started out, they have a lot of volunteers that help blind and partially sighted people. In the beginning, they used to only have the offer via a phone call that we can make to them. And now they have Be My AI. That's really exciting. You can actually just send a picture and get it described, or get help deeper then, because you can ask something about other elements of your picture. For example, tell me more about the persons and what they're wearing, and that way you can get a full description of anything you put into Be My AI. So if you go traveling and someone would describe pictures that they have taken, it's all very good, but how many times do you want to ask, tell me again, what's on this picture? It's very nice that we can independently do this. And I mean, we use it everywhere, isn't it? Out shopping,
Oh, yeah.
en route, anywhere and everywhere, really, to be very honest. Smartphones, tablets, and everything have basically honestly been the revolution of our lives. It just makes things so much easier. So yeah, really.
Sorry,
I think
Madleen, you might be going to cover it, because I was going to say about the book apps. The
Audible and so on.
revelation.
Yeah, book apps. And I don't know what there used to be a time that I had to say only 5% of books are accessible for blind and partially sighted people. And these days, I can gladly say whatever we want to read really is somehow accessible, whether Kindle or RNIB talking books or Audible or iBooks, any other book platform. But it has become a lot better, and that is, for people like Chris and I, it's a complete game changer. So I've talked far too much. I could talk forever, but I hand over back to Lara because I think it's time for questions.
That's amazing. Thank you both. It's so great to have that lived experience. So yeah, just the last slide was literally just any questions and our contact details. I'll leave that up and pass back to Sean. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. All three of you did a fantastic presentation there. Both your expertise and lived experience was so useful for everybody. I'm sure I certainly found it really useful, and great to see how technology's moved on, and also some of the challenges around different parts. It's really great to get that insight. So thank you so much. And I'm sure, everyone found that really useful. And we are getting quite close there. Lara, are you able to stay 5 or 10 minutes just to cover and the rest of the team
I'm happy to stay. That's fine.
Yeah,
sorry, we got so enthusiastic.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So we'll continue on for maybe another 10 minutes. If anyone needs to go, obviously just go. We will keep the recording going so that if anyone missed their question, we can come back to it. So I'll just run through the questions as they came in. So just going back a little bit, we had a question from Kirsten. Given the high costs involved for individuals, is there scope for libraries to offer a borrowing service for equipment? And I know that will happen in some places or not others. I mean, do Lara or any of you have examples of where that particularly works, or is there more scope for that to happen across all types of libraries, not just public?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's really nice, I think, especially for people who want to try before they buy. So they want to be able to take a device home, see if it works for them, see if the buttons are practical for them. I have worked with 1 or 2 library services on a sort of a lending scheme. What they normally do is they normally get something that is like a USB player, like the Accord. It's about £50. They might get 2 or 3 of them, and then lend those out for maybe 2 or 3 weeks so that people can try them out and see. You can see how something like that could rack up the price pretty quickly, especially if you wanted to have a selection of daisy players, or if you wanted to have a braille reader. So I think it would just be really what was in the scope of the library. It would be wonderful to support more libraries to be able to do that. I think at the end of the day, unfortunately, it just comes down to funding. But no, I love that idea. I think that's a really nice potential.
Thank you. And on that note, is there any sources of funding that you're aware of that perhaps libraries or other similar organisations have been particularly successful with that you could signpost us to, or is there more information out there for sources of
I'll
funding?
let the TfL guys talk about the tech funding first, and then I'll jump in after if that's okay. So
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know about libraries specifically. I mean, there is something called a Carlton Trust. If there's still, that's more to set up a sort of project where you would have a training suite, and they can provide equipment, so that they might be worth looking at. In terms of individuals, there is the RNIB Technology for Life grants. There are criteria, but that can cover things like smartphones, talking book machines. I think something like the Victor Stream it's up to £500, but yeah, there is criteria, but that certainly is open to visually impaired customers, including children if a parent or guardian supplying on their behalf, and it's for home use.
And that covers smartphones, tablets, players, software, but not the hard. Well, no computer, no laptop.
Yeah, not laptops.
As far as other libraries that I've helped with successful funding, there's been some from People's Postcode Lottery. So actually my role is funded by the People's Postcode Lottery because they're quite keen to get people out in the community and to really engage people. They've been quite generous, which is quite nice with a couple of places. Ulverscroft is always a good place to try. Definitely try them. And then I think if you have a specific project or idea to benefit people with sight loss within your community or within your area, always come and run it past me, because there's a whole fundraising grants team at RNIB who love to hear about those ideas. So always come and let me know, and I can run it past them, and we can see. Obviously can't guarantee anything, but we'll always try.
Great, thank you. Great advice. And Jack in a hospital context, is there a case where these devices perhaps should be provided by the library or by the clinical areas to lend to patients? Have you do you work with hospitals around any of this? Is there anything that you do you have any thoughts on that side of things?
So I've worked with 1 or 2 previously, and I know some of them did have a little lending service, go around with a trolley and to patients, and they had some fiction, non-fiction for them. I think the main thing is just to be aware of what's out there. I think that's the thing, so that if you do meet someone with sight loss who's I only listen to audiobooks, or actually I only read books in Braille, so that you can come to us or come to me or come to the Tech for Life team, and you don't necessarily have to stock it. You don't have to have it there. You know, and of course there are some wonderful other organizations too. You know, you've got Calibre, you've got guide dogs that also provide you know, reading materials, and we're very happy to signpost you to those as well, so that you know where to get those items for that person. Appreciate it might not be something you come across every day, so I would be definitely more in the mind of, and Chris, Madleen, let me know if you disagree, of just knowing where to go to ask for them.
Oh
And
yeah,
you don't have to
absolutely.
have it on your trolley all the time, like a
Yeah.
braille reader. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a range of options for accessing print, whether it's through a screen reader or a device, or or through audio. I think that's the main sort of takeaway.
Great, thank you. Thank you. So somebody else puts out that just found out that Google Drive has OCR. Were you aware of that? Is it workable? Do you or do any of the three of you have any comments on that? Is that something you were?
I think I don't know about you, Madleen, but I think the issue we've had as certainly myself and blind or severely sight impaired people, there's been OCR options around for general use for decades, but they don't always tell you, particularly with the smartphone, they don't tell you how to take the picture. So using some of these stuff that are mainstream isn't accessible. So there are solutions for us now, like the app Seeing AI that Madleen mentioned. So we tend to use those because it just works and it's quick and easy. So yeah,
But
in
it's all
the
about
short,
time and
used
quickness
it.
and what we can achieve. And you know, we get a little tip how to hold the camera, then that's a good thing. That sometimes doesn't happen with Google OCR or
And they do actually have they have made an app themselves as well, called Lookout, which is on Android, which is another alternative. I think they're using the Tesseract OCR engine is probably in all their OCR products.
I would say like it's not as good as Seeing AI though. I would prefer Seeing AI over Lookout. What would you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, for a while it was the only. Oh,
I
no, there
think
is a
one
couple, but yeah.
very good thing is the choice. We didn't have a lot of
Yeah,
choice when
absolutely. Yeah.
technology wasn't there, and now the technology is there and we have got a lot more choice. I think that's something wonderful. So
Great.
you know, it
Thank
used to be use this software, that's the only thing we've got. And now we have an array of software and hardware, and I think that's a brilliant achievement.
Great, thank you, Madleen. We've got three more questions. We'll just try and get through them. I'll probably have to cut it there, not take any more if you don't mind. But I'll go through these three, and then if there's any more, obviously the contact details are up on the screen. So the first one, can you put a DAISY file format USB book into a non-DAISY talking book machine if happy to accept loss of navigation?
You can,
Yeah.
It should ignore all the code. Sometimes there are issues with bookmarking, but basically yes.
Yeah, and you could then, if you want to turn it into MP3 or something like that, depending on what file it is, you can just delete all the DAISY files in the in the files list to make it a bit easier to navigate. But yeah, you can.
Great, that's good news. And the question: how much support could be accessible for AI-assisted innovation training for libraries and users themselves? And perhaps that's also a question a little bit for us, but I don't know, Lara, is that something you've come across?
I love that. I love that. I think well, this is my impression anyway, is that, you know, as far as in assistive technology, we're embracing AI. I mean, AI is brilliant, you know, and things like the Seeing AI app uses AI, take a picture of something and it will just describe it to you, and it is amazing. Definitely download that. It's completely free. Have a play around with it. As far as training specifically around AI, I think we're just getting our heads around it ourselves. There's no like specific training package, unless there's one I don't know of. Do you guys? No,
I think it's a case of a lot of these apps, Chat GPT and other things, you know, beyond just sort of access to text, but we're still at the stage of playing around with them. But yeah, the Be My Eyes app is excellent, as Madleen mentioned as well, and that's using that's going to be innovating quite a lot with sort of even live video processing description.
Yeah.
So I guess, and obviously there's always a caveat, certainly when it comes to pictures and things of, you know, the hallucination they call it. I wouldn't trust them yet to read medical information, you know, instructions off tablets and things like that. So there's always that sort of caveat to be aware of.
Yeah, but I've had recent good experience with AI, and it's something when we train for libraries anyway, I would imagine there's not a problem to kind of talk about AI and how AI is changing our lives as well. So it's anything, ChatGPT, Copilot, or AI, and anything else that we use, like Be My AI and whatever. I think it really changes. I've recently been traveling, and I used AI to give me route descriptions, you know, in a foreign country. Well, actually not so foreign to me. I was in Germany. So yeah, it's just amazing what they can do for us, you know. Just good to know where we can find that.
And there is training available, so do reach out if that's something you're interested in. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for all these questions. We'll do one more, but thank you. There's obviously so many fantastic questions, so really appreciate that, and thank you for
great, yeah.
staying on. Just last one is just on a particular system. CILIP Scotland mentioned a system called Navilens with an app and smartphones picking up colourful QR code type codes for navigation and information. Have you come across that? Is it something you'd recommend?
Yeah, our whole office offices is full with Netherlands sort of codes. When you know where they are as a blind person, it's quite good to use
that's
them.
the biggest thing.
But you need to know where they are, and this is
yeah, it's really the practical thing. I would say that they're worth looking at for sure. But again, because you have to have your phone out and hold it out, if you don't know they're there, you're not going to walk around with your phone out. But yeah, they can be useful. I must admit, I haven't really used them much myself, except visiting the.
I've used them in
main
RNIB in the
Yeah,
office
exactly. That's
just to
the only
find
place I've
meeting
used it.
rooms.
Yeah.
And if there's a structure that, for example, you would promote the message that everywhere on the left side of the door in the meeting room is the Netherlands label or something like that, then we would know where to search. But otherwise, happy searching if you don't know where it is, and you don't have any site, that might take you a while to find it. But yeah.
Agreed. Like, keep them at the same height level if you can. That's helpful. Also, I think from the organizations that I've worked with that use them, I think they're probably more practical for not wayfinding, but more internal navigation. So, you know, within a building or within a set space. I know, was it the Paris Metro that have them, or there was some sort of
Barcelona,
Barcelona, that's right. But unfortunately, there was a real spate of like muggings, because of course, if you're a blind or partially sighted person, got your phone out like this, you know, on the tube, it's, you know, I just think it makes you a little bit vulnerable. So, but if you wanted to have it in your library in a sort of controlled spaced environment, then yeah, that could potentially work really well.
Great, thank you for those really informative answers. It's really great to unpick some of these issues, and you know, can we just all please just digitally or however else show our thanks to Lara, Chris and Madleen for this fantastic session. Thank you all. And yeah, people have asked about the recording. Yeah, we will have a full recording. It will be shared. It'll take us a little bit of time to get that up and shared, but we will be sharing that. If anyone signed up to this, we'll get a follow-on email with a few links in it, as well as the recording, and obviously the contact details of the RNIB team are up on the screen as well, if you've got any specific questions about any of the things covered here. So we'll wrap up there. Have a good day, everybody, and thanks again for everyone joining us today. Thanks all.